Welcome back to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast. We are so glad you joined us to hear our inspiring conversation that we're going to have with today's guest, David Goldberg. David is a nationally recognized polygraph examiner and podcast host himself who helps people find truth and clarity in high-stakes personal and professional situations. David has more than 3 decades of experience in the criminal justice arena, investigations, and credibility assessments. He founded executive protection group Polygraph Service in 2001 and is an advanced board-certified licensed and court-certified polygraph examiner in the Commonwealth of Virginia. David has been qualified multiple times as a court-certified subject matter expert and has conducted over 20,000 documented certified polygraph examinations involving high-stakes personal, professional, and legal matters. His work has even contributed to case dismissals, wrongful convictions being reversed, and major legal outcomes at the state and federal level. In addition to all that, as if that wasn't enough, in his investigative background, David is also a U.S. military combat veteran and has worked closely with law enforcement, government agencies, attorneys, and behavioral health professionals nationwide. And I'm going to put this out here, and thank you, David. You were a first responder at the Twin Towers on 9/11. Today, we're going to dive deep into why polygraphs give more to individuals that can be imagined when taken by a highly experienced examiner such as David. And he'll be the first one to tell you, TV and Hollywood portrayal of polygraph testing is fabricated and a true misjustice to what is reality. This is why David clarifies the real truth about polygraph examinations. He's empathetic, compassionate, and truly understanding, and his integrity has set him apart from other examiners in his profession for this reason. And he has displayed that mindset and professionalism for over 25 years. David, welcome to the Warrior Servant Leader podcast.
Thank you so much, Pat, for inviting me. And sorry that was a long bio, but I appreciate you telling your audience about that.
Yeah, no, man, because there's so many misunderstandings and myths. In fact, I'm thinking about calling this episode Polygraphs Truth or Dare, that people can be very passionate on both sides, and some folks who are so anti-polygraph are coming from a perception that is not founded in reality. So I'm going to start this off, and when we talked on the phone, I've already warned you, I'm the Irish setter in the backyard, and I see a squirrel, and boom, off I go, chasing after it. So we're going to have a very dynamic conversation. This is not an interview like typically people are expecting. So I'm coming out of the box with this question. 20,000 documented examinations. Is there one that stands out for you as like it blows your mind, your most memorable examination?
I think they all stand out. I guess the one that would stand out really greatly would be that I got someone out of incarceration that was falsely charged. And I can tell you the story if you want. And so what happened was this individual was convicted previously for a sex offense that dealt with a minor when he was younger. And he served his time and got off probation. And then what happened was, because he had that stigma, he was a drinker and he had to relieve himself. And he was in front of a McDonald's. He went inside the McDonald's, and the McDonald's was full of children. It was very crowded. It was on a weekend, and the bathroom was extremely full. And he had to go. but he wasn't going to wait in that line. So he went back out of the McDonald's. Like I said, he was a drinker. He was pretty intoxicated. So he urinated outside of the McDonald's by his vehicle. Police officers just happened to be patrolling. They saw him. They arrested him for urinating in public. It's a misdemeanor.
Right.
However, when they ran him on the computer, they saw his prior charge. And so they charged him, and they charged him with a felony, and they wanted to revoke his probation for being a child sex offender. They threw him in jail. They charged him with that felony, and now he went and was charged with being in the premises of children as a sex offender. Well, that was going to put him in jail for another 15 more years.
Wow.
His attorney called me, hired me, and said, look, my client absolutely under no circumstances was doing this to entice or get sexual gratification in front of children. So they hired me. I polygraph tested him in prison. So I went to the prison to test him, and we went all the way up and had to do it in a federal court. And it was presented where they listened to the polygraph, they listened to me, they listened to other evidence, and he was released, and it saved him from being incarcerated. I got a letter from him thanking me and telling me that I saved his life. And that really stands out big time because he took a polygraph test. He proved his innocence. He proved he wasn't there for any type of sexual molestation or gratification. He just had to go to the bathroom. But what I tell people is this, Pat, is there are several sides to every story, but sometimes people are too quick to judge, too quick to charge sometimes without listening. And that day is what happened. They charged him for urinating, which was just the facts, probable cause. But because he popped up as a sex offender, they said, oh, yeah, this is great. Let me charge him for this. And that's what happened.
Wow. I'm curious, in that particular case, was this a stipulated polygraph that if he had failed, he was going to have to plead guilty?
No, there was no stipulation. No, it was actually argued and fought in reference to the polygraph not coming in, and I was able to testify.
Wow. So the myths or presentation of polygraph examinations on TV, and I tell people all the time that probably a good 90% of American society has never had any personal interaction with law enforcement. They haven't been stopped for a traffic violation. They haven't been a victim. They haven't been a witness. And the only thing they know about policing is what they see on TV or on the news, and then they form an opinion one way or the other about law enforcement. The same thing, I think, let me put it in the form of a question. Is that your experience with respect to polygraph exams, is that people who have never had any interaction have a very strong opinion about it, and it's based on what they've seen on TV?
100%. And I love what you just said, Pat, is TV, and I say this a lot, TV is based on ratings, commercial, audience participation, and they do portray a lot. I mean, cop shows, that's why a lot of people get into being first responders, because of the action that they portray, and why people want to get into the military and be, special forces, because of what they show. And that's great because they do show a lot of reality in reference to movies and TV. However, what I tell people in reference to polygraphs and even in law enforcement, they do it very quickly because they have to capture the audience and they have to capture those ratings, the commercials. They have to capture everything very, very quick because people have a very short observation and a short, temperament and stuff like that, and they get bored very quickly. So they have to capture you very, very fast. And what they don't show in what's reality when it comes to the polygraph is it takes a long procedure to get those final results. And we don't put a bright light on you like you see in TV. We don't slap a book and yell and scream. It's not that kind of procedure. And a professional examiner is very empathetic, understanding, and there's multiple layers to a polygraph. And yes, what you just said is right. People get what they see on TV and they believe that it's, pseudoscience, it's BS, it's all that stuff. And that's where you get the opposite opinions. And that's fine. I love hearing, and you said it in the very beginning of your intro, you're going to have both sides, those that can't stand it, don't believe it, hate it, and then those that truly believe in it and love it because it's helped them. And that's fine. Everyone has an opinion and they should. But that's where they get most of their opinions because they've either never had a confrontation or an interaction with law enforcement, and they've never had an interaction with a real, true professional polygraph examiner, and they get it off of what they see on TV.
And that's great. And I've had to go through polygraphs. The FBI, the local law enforcement. I mean, not because of being a suspect in something, but it was part of the clearance rating process or getting hired process that we had to go through. And so I've been through that long process you talk about. Share a little bit about how important people need to understand that when you first come in to take a polygraph, you're not getting hooked up to a machine. Talk about that pre-interview process and why you go through it and how you go through it to make the actual examination using the polygraph equipment more credible, or I don't want to say credible, more accurate.
Absolutely. That's excellent. And here's what I tell people all the time. The most important phase procedure of a polygraph, any polygraph, when you go, and I keep saying this, when you go seek a professional examiner with extensive experience, is that pre-test interview phase. And what that encompasses is this. When you go and you take that examination and you're going there for a specific reason, either you're going there for a pre-employment test, which means the most important job opportunity, your dream job of a lifetime, or you're going there because you're being falsely accused of something, whether it's infidelity, a theft matter, wrongful termination, whatever, or you're in a heated custody divorce matter and you're being falsely accused of a heinous thing in reference to, molestation of your child or a stepchild or anything, you're there to resolve that serious matter, or you're being asked to take a polygraph test by someone that you're either related to or you work for or whatever, and you've agreed to that. The examiner, it's up to that examiner to listen to your story, because everyone has a story to tell. Everyone. That interview is where a lot of information is ascertained, which means gained, where that story, whether you're going to be telling the truth or whether you're going to be deceptive, the examiner gains all that information. And at that point, after you tell the complete story, the examiner asks a lot of questions, and they're supposed to, lots of questions, to verify whether you're telling the truth, giving lots and lots of information and facts. They then formulate proper questions that will verify and validate what you say is true. And then once you're hooked up, and that comes later, once you're hooked up to the instrument, the attachments are hooked up to you, to read your responses to the questions that are asked, then your story is then validated, or it's not validated, and you're then told that you have not told the complete truth.
Yeah, and that's great. I love your explanation of it, and using the word validate, because they call it a lie detector test, but it's not detecting lies per se. It's detecting deception or incomplete responses to a question asked. And I tell people, we had 70 bank robberies in Dayton, Ohio in 1 year, and I was asked to present training to, and it was a private company, came to me and says, hey, we represent a lot of these banks, and we would like our bank employees to be trained in what to do and what not to do in a bank robbery. And so I'm like, okay, 30 minutes. It's not a long training. It's like 30 minutes. I can get you up to speed on the basics. And I had pre-planned in every instance that I had brought somebody else with me, but nobody saw them before came into the bank, and we did the training in the bank, and then I would have this person, maybe 10 minutes into the training, come over and just hand me something, hand me a note, whisper something, and then walk away, and I would just keep right on training for about another 2 or 3 minutes. And then I'd stop and I'd go, everybody take out a piece of paper and write down what you just saw and heard. Everybody saw the same thing. And I included, describe the person that came up to me. But not all of them had the same answer. And it doesn't mean they were lying. It just means their perception
Mm-hmm.
and recall was influenced. Like, maybe they were, looking at their phone when it happened. Whatever. But if you put them on a polygraph and they insist, well, yeah, it was a white guy that was 6'1", wearing blue jeans and a red shirt, and it was definitively that's not true, but that's what they remember. So your pre-test, what other skills do you have that you are relying on, not just when you hook them up and what the readout says? What other skill sets does a professional, really qualified polygraph examiner need to have?
A professional examiner, and I love your analogy because I use that analogy all the time. You can bring 5 people into a room in a bank robbery, or you can bring them into any kind of crime, and every single person is not going to give you the same description of that person. That does not make them a liar. It's just like you said, it makes them perceive something different. And just because you may be wrong about something does not make you a liar. But what happens is people immediately judge you and call you a liar. And they're quick to judge people, where as a professional examiner, and you ask that, here's what happens. We utilize certain words that people use. We use whether or not you're extremely detailed, because a truthful person can tell a story backwards, forwards, sideways, upside down, and tell it today, tomorrow, 20 years from now, and not skip a beat. Someone who is deceiving, lying, exaggerating, or withholding can't keep that same story straight. Cannot. And a professional interviewer, professional examiner knows this. And when they ask certain questions and they ask it, you're not going to be able to say it the same way you just said it. You're just not. But a truthful person will, because here's what happens. A truthful person doesn't have to think, doesn't have to really recall much, because it flows naturally. A person that's deceiving, a person that's lying, has to think what comes next in order to try to manipulate and control the conversation in order to gain you to believe their story.
Yeah.
And so, as a professional examiner, we watch body language, we watch certain words that come out of people's mouths, and then we use all that, and then we formulate the questions and we verify. And you said it right. It's called a lie detector test, but it's not. And I think they use that in the late 70s and 80s and also, but it changed to polygraph examinations. And polygraph means many, graph means charts, so it's many charts. And the examination is about testing. And so it's no more about lie detection. We test in reference to physiological responses that you give to answers that we're trying to get from the questions that we ask. And when you're trying to withhold vital information intentionally, or you're trying to deceive something because you don't want it to come out because you're, oh my God, if this comes out, I'm fearful of what's going to happen next. Your body is going to react, and the physiological part in your body, certain things you just cannot control on a polygraph. You can't control your blood flow. You can't control your sweat glands, but there are things that people do try to manipulate, such as their breathing, their movement, and those are what's called countermeasures. And we can see those kind of things, and we'll call you out. A professional examiner will call you out. And if you don't stop or you don't change up what we tell you to do, we'll call you out and you'll fail because we know you're trying to manipulate it.
Yeah, the people that whole concept of, well, here's how you can beat a polygraph, and keep tapping your feet, moving your legs and your feet, or just do different things, and you'll beat the polygraph. And the reality is, no, you don't beat the polygraph. A qualified examiner like yourself calls you on it. If you keep doing it, we're done. And I'm writing this up as a failure because you are not obey. It's like it'd be like a baseball pitcher thinking, "Hey, I can always throw a spitball, and if they tell me to stop doing it, but I keep doing it, I'm going to get ejected." Kind of thing. That kind of comparison. And here's a squirrel moment as you were talking, because you saw me looking down and I'm taking notes and stuff, and I wrote down two things that my perception is, and this is come having been, a detective and an investigator and a cop for nearly 30 years, is always begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind for a polygraph examiner and for an investigator is one very simple thing. I want the truth. That's the end in mind is the truth. And then that triggers for me a long held, and this comes basically right out of scripture. Whatever you're looking for, you will always find more of it. And I liked how you said that if you ask them a question and it is objectively not true. Five different people give five different descriptions of the bank robber, and four of them objectively, it's not possible. That no, we got video. That's not what you saw, and we tag them with this conclusion of you're a liar. Our human nature goes, now I'm going to keep looking for more things you're lying about, and I switch that the end in mind isn't getting to the truth. It is, oh whoa, what else are you lying about? And I think that's hard for people from an ego standpoint. So for yourself, in your 30 plus years of doing this, what have been the biggest challenges or obstacles to you to maintain that very straight line credibility and trustworthiness?
In reference to interviewing someone or what?
Yeah, well, as a career, as a polygraph examiner, I mean, have you gone? You know what? I'm tired of hearing all these people always lying to me, and you get because cops do this. Uh, after 3 or 5 years, I've been on hundreds of death scenes, and you start developing a self-defense mechanism so that you don't, lose your mind kind of deal. Have you experienced that in the polygraph world? Because the only time people come to you is there's a dispute, and nobody's coming to you going, "Hey, I had a really great day, and I'd like you to polygraph me about how great my day was." So,
Right.
what things have really impacted you and challenged you emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, uh, over a career of 3 decades of doing this?
I think my passion is, and it always has been, even when I was in law enforcement, and I think that's why people get into becoming first responders. Is the ultimate goal is to help people. So my goal is to help people get something that they didn't think that they could get, and that is true answers and closure by utilizing a tool that they never thought that was there for them, because most people think that polygraphs were only out there for those that were criminally investigated or criminally charged. That's
Hmm.
the biggest thing that I ever had. The hardest thing to get out there is it's no longer just for that. It's for every single individual out there, every denomination, race, creed, age, you name it, and for every single issue that you can possibly come up with. Every issue. Okay. There's not one issue that I have not tested that you can possibly think about. Okay. That I've never, ever tested. Not one. And it doesn't faze me because I've heard it all.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what you said is correct. And I was in law enforcement, so I know you're right. You go to a car accident and someone's through the windshield. You go to another car accident, another one's through the windshield, and you get numb to it because you see it. And law enforcement, first responders, both firefighters, paramedics, and police officers, they compartmentalize that and they have to go on to the next one, and they don't know how to shed those emotions because they can't, because they have to be macho and tough,
Hmm.
and so I guess as a polygraph examiner, I've taken that same feeling that I compartmentalize it, but I'm more empathetic as a polygraph examiner, more so because I've seen it, I've done it, I've been through that. And some of the same issues that I'm dealing with people's individual lives, I've also gone through it. And so I can empathize. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy, you just feel sorry for someone. Empathy is you actually know what someone's going through because you've actually been in their same situation before. So I'm very empathetic to a lot of people that come to me in reference to a lot of situations. And so I guess when people come to me, I guess even though I've done 20,000 plus and I've heard the same situation over and over again, I think what the difference is I'm not judgmental. My office is non-judgmental, and where they feel they can't talk to their significant other, they can't talk to a parent, they've been ridiculed before, they tell me. And let's say they come to me, a man comes to me and he's there for infidelity, and he felt like he couldn't tell his wife that he's had sex with 5 prostitutes, because if he did, his wife would want to cut off his private part and feed it to the dogs. He comes to me and he tells me, yeah, I have, because I've built that rapport. I don't go, oh my God, you bastard, and where his wife would say that. I go, okay, well, great, because my job is just to listen and for you to talk, and then my job is to verify, is there more than 5 prostitutes, or is that all that there is? And if I verify that there's no more than 5 prostitutes, that's what you told me, you're going to pass your polygraph test. And passing goes a long way. Passing means you were open, you were honest, and you didn't withhold any information. And that's what I do and I have been doing, and that's the difference.
Wow. Wow. So, for people that are just listening to us on Spotify and not getting the video. Behind you, you have Jim, the framed movie thing of Jim Carrey and Liar Liar. Have you ever had a pathological liar that has been sent to you, and and what's that like? I mean, how do you come to that conclusion of this person is pathological?
Sure.
And explain what that means, because a lot of people think that there are people that can beat a polygraph because they truly believe everything that comes out of their mouth, even though they know it's a lie. They just make stuff up as they're going along. In a little squirrel moment, one of the things I learned I took a 10-week course in this at the FBI, is it was a linguistic evaluation looking for deception. And one of the, so people change, they, everything has to be in the past tense for a cop. If I'm investigating something, it's all happened in the past. So we were taught, both linguistically speaking and writing, if someone starts talking in the present tense, and before they were talking, everything was in the past tense, and now they've switched to that is a clear indicator. You called it earlier, they're thinking through the story as they're creating the story and telling it. So back off, the squirrel's gone, he's in somebody else's yard now. Pathological, tell us about your experiences dealing with pathological liars.
Sure. I've dealt with pathological liars, narcissistic individuals, controlling individuals, you name it. But pathological liars are those, what you just said, Pat, are those that believe their lies. However, they don't really believe those lies. They want to convince you to believe the lies that they're telling. They don't really believe them. They want to convince you to believe their lies. Okay. So it's a control situation. Okay. And they also are like sociopaths, which they don't show any kind of emotions. Okay. They believe them, but they want you to be more believable in that story that they tell. Okay. And I've had them. So what happens is you really, they tell it, and they are very convincing. Trust me. They're very, very convincing. Because why are they convincing? If they believe it, why do they have to really elaborate with it if they believe it themselves, right? Because the real issue is they want others to believe it also. So they have to have others to be on their side, to believe it, okay? Such as, oh, I'm married to this celebrity, and we've had this wonderful, wonderful life together once before, and if I call them right now, they're going to tell you right now. And then so if you say, well, we'll call them. No, I know they're busy.
Yeah.
But I could, it's a lot of mental issues. Sometimes these pathological liars, and they have, at one point in their life, something's happened, and that's what has caused them to be this way. So what happens is, as an examiner, I have to break it down. So listen to that story, and there's going to be a loophole in that story somewhere that I'm going to get it, break it down, and then finally get them where I'm going to say, okay, tell me where you met this celebrity. And I'm already going to know about, let's say, this celebrity or something else. I'm already going to know that this didn't happen, or this could not have happened, or there's no way it could have happened. And then I'm going to bring it out. And then they're going to have to come up. A pathological will come up, but it's just like you said, they're going to have to step back and think and go, well, yeah, this is what happened. And now you've thrown them off the squirrel wheel,
Yeah.
and now they got to get back on. And at that point, you basically have gotten. But they're not easy, because they want you to believe it, and they'll be steadfast, stubborn, and you'll go toe to toe sometimes. But after a while, and even when you polygraph test them and you prove that lie is a lie, or their story is deceptive, They don't want to believe it. They blame you. They blame everyone else around them that they're all wrong, but not them.
Yeah, and and I'm sure this has been your experience because I was an expert witness practice for about 6 or 7 years, and they always they didn't want to put their client on trial or the facts on trial. They wanted to put you, the expert, on trial or your equipment and try the case and the argument attacking something that is inanimate like that machine. That machine, yeah, they do it. They did breathalyzers. I mean, you name it. It's always. I had a guy, Terrence McCarthy. He helped write the federal public defender protocols back in 1964, and I went to some training he put on, and I think I didn't tell him. I had lunch with him, and I didn't tell him that I was a cop and a former prosecutor. It was all lawyers. It was a CLE class in Columbus, Ohio, about 300 lawyers in there. And here's what he told me. He goes, 95% of the time, your client is guilty, so don't talk about the evidence. And so the same thing, I think, in attacking polygraphs or other technology that's used to help police get to the truth, or help attorneys, in civil matters get to the truth, is attack the technology and not the evidence of your case. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here because as you were talking, I just this thought came to me, another squirrel moment. Besides pathological or narcissistic, those types of folks, have you had any experiences or exposures in dealing with people who that need to be or want to be polygraph that are on the autism spectrum? And how does that intellectual or developmental disability impact you as an examiner or your tools that you use?
Yeah, I've had every type of individual from ADHD, Asperger's, to every type of serious issue. Even people that have serious psychotropic mental issues come and take a polygraph test. And I tell people seriously that you will never ever fail a polygraph test or be able to manipulate or pass a polygraph test because of any medical serious issues that you might be going through or medication that you're taking. Because I have people, and they ask me all of this. I have people that come to me with heart medication, ADHD medication, high blood pressure, cholesterol, they have heart murmurs, you name it. And they're taking psychotropic medications, to keep their, bipolarism in balance and check and stuff like that. And I tell them, please take it, please continue to take it, if you're going to take a polygraph test, because I don't want you to be, all over the place, please take it because it's not going to affect the test. I want you to be cognizant and more aware when you come take a polygraph test than bouncing all over the walls and not being able to focus. So it doesn't affect the test, especially when you are talking to someone maybe with Asperger's or, having a low, mental IQ, okay? As long as when the examiner does his basic assessment of you, that's where the professional examiner does in the very beginning. They have to make sure that you are a fit for being able to take a polygraph. That means, are you cognizant and can answer questions appropriately? Do you know your surroundings? Are you mature enough to answer questions? And when I test people, I test juveniles and minors. So I have to make sure that they're, able to answer questions as well. And so when I speak to them, I'm going to speak on every single person's level. Okay, I'm no more educated than someone with a PhD, and whatever level you're on, I'm going to speak on your level. And if you understand and you can give me great answers, that's all I ask for, as long as you understand. And if you don't understand, I ask you to ask me so I can explain. Because I tell people this: if during the interview phase, if you don't understand anything I ask you, don't answer it. Because if I test you, I verify, and you happen to fail, the one thing you're not going to be able to do is come back to whoever you came with or whoever later on and say, well, the reason why I failed is because, I didn't understand the questions. I tell people that's BS. If you answered it, that means you fully understood. So if you don't understand, ask me, and I'll take all day long to explain one question to you, because I want to ensure that you do well. And here's what I would say that you brought up earlier. People can beat a polygraph test, but you know how they beat a polygraph test? They don't beat the instrument, that they beat the inexperienced examiner. And when you go to an inexperienced examiner that is not highly qualified, that doesn't have years and years of experience doing the issue that you're there for, that's how you beat an inexperienced examiner, because they don't know the proper questions they formulate, or they haven't done that type of issue in a long time or ever, and they're just winging it. And that's how a polygraph test is beaten. And that's why you hear, and I see it a lot, oh, I've taken a polygraph test, I beat that examiner, I lied. Well, it's funny when I read those kind of comments is, well, great, you're telling on yourself and you're bragging that you're a liar. But the fact is you didn't beat the exam. What you did is you beat the examiner. And I have a lot of people that come to me from prior other examiners and say, hey, I need you to retest because something was just not right. And then I get a lot of people that tell me what they really did in that other examination and how they beat them and how things were.
Wow. And I liken it to, and because of your experience in law enforcement, you 100% can relate to this. Everything you just said about understanding, and if you don't understand, don't answer, all those things. That's exactly what we teach cops when you are Mirandizing someone, and you always ask the question, "Do you understand?" And if you don't, like you read, uh, I'm gonna squirrel a little analogy. I had a guest on, and I did the introduction, and they had a very unique background. And I said, "So, you know, what's the Paul Harvey rest of the story?" And the guest just sat there and looked at me with this blank look on their face. And I go, "Something the matter?" He goes, "I don't know who Paul Harvey is." And so I was asking a question, not like you say, being on the level or understanding where
Mm-hmm.
somebody came from. And folks with intellectual developmental disabilities, a lot of, depending on what part of the spectrum and what their diagnosis is, um, take things literally.
Mm-hmm.
I had a video of a cop doing a field sobriety test, and the kid that the young man that was in the video, uh, it was an interview of him, not by me, but by somebody that I knew, and they had intellectual disabilities, and he got arrested for DUI because he failed the field sobriety test, and was did not follow instructions. Well, the cop told him he's going to do the heel to toe, and he tells him, imagine there's a line on the ground there, and I want you to walk 9 steps, heel to toe, turn around, and come back, and don't start until I tell you. Do you understand? What the kid understood is, don't start until I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So he said yes. Then the cop goes, all right, start. And he's standing there, and he doesn't move, and he's looking at the ground. It comes out through counsel later in the trial. Uh, he was looking for the imaginary line. He doesn't know what you mean by imaginary. And so
Right.
that's why he couldn't start walking the line until he could find the line, kind of deal. So is what's some of your experience with people that may be of that mindset of, I'm not going to read into your questions and answer. If you ask me a direct question, were you at I'm going to say yes.
This is,
And I
and that's
and I
a,
and I'm not going to volunteer anything else. And so I'm not lying because what makes a lie believable is a shred of truth. And yes, I was there, but I didn't do it. Well, that's the lie. The truth is yes, I was there. And so how do you walk people through that process, whether they know it or not, of getting them to the point where they have no choice but to tell the truth because they're not fooling you.
well, they have to tell the story. They have to.
All right.
Okay. They have to. It's like I'll ask questions after they tell me the story.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's an open book. You tell me the story, and we begin from A through Z. Okay. So you're going to tell me what happened from, it's just like an investigator, right? How
Mm-hmm.
investigators investigate from what happened to what they found. Okay. And especially when they find someone. But here's what I would say in reference to what you said. Police officers, again, and I say this, investigators, whatever, were very quick to judge. And when we, and I say we, investigators, police officers, whatever, don't get the responses or the answers that they want or we want quickly enough, we get agitated, we get upset, we get angry, and then that's where things start changing. So that analogy of the DUI or the Miranda rights, when we give them, you have the right to remain silent. Do you understand? Here's what happens with someone that gets arrested. The very first time you get arrested, the first time, or even if it's multiple times you've been arrested, your heart still palpitates and you get scared to death. You're scared. It's like, oh my God, I've never been in the back of a police car. Now I'm getting my rights read, or I'm in the police station, I'm getting my rights read. This is scary. What's going to happen? So you do answer because you're so scared. You answer because you don't want to piss off that police officer, the detective, or you want to please them because you're hoping that if you please them, things are going to get better for you. So when they say, do you understand you have the right to remain silent? Yep. You understand you have the right to talk to an attorney? If yep. And so on and so on. But in reality, you don't really understand, but the officer, you're afraid to ask. That's why you hear attorneys always say, hey, if you ever get stopped, ask for an attorney. But people still don't do that. They still just, they
Yeah.
talk and they incriminate themselves or they incriminate their friends or whatever. What I do, and I do it all the time, I say, I don't care if I ask you anything, are you ready to take a polygraph test? And they say, yep. I say, now, do you understand what that means? Are you ready to take a polygraph test? Don't say, yep. I want you to ask me if you understand what that means. And I mean, do you understand that ready means you're ready for me to attach the attachments? You're ready to answer all my questions. If you're not ready, tell me. If you need to use the restroom, tell me. You want something to drink? Tell me.
Yeah.
I make it so definitively clear that there's no what ifs, no anything. And that's how I really ensure, because it's just like you said in the very beginning. When you go to trial, when you go to court, what it is they want to destroy the person that's on the stand testifying against their client because that's the only case they have, making you look like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got the aha moment. That officer screwed up. He messed up the Miranda rights. My client didn't understand because that officer didn't explain things better. So now the whole case is done because you didn't explain the Miranda rights properly. My client was confused. Your Honor, I asked for the case to be dismissed. And a lot of times that's how it happens because
Yeah.
the officer messed up. That's the difference between what I do. I really, really want to ensure that when I test someone, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm explaining everything.
Yeah. No, that's great. It reminds me of kind of the concept of time and distance are your friend when interacting with someone that you, you're trying to get them to do something that's not in their best interest, like tell the truth.
Right.
And so take your time, distance. It's okay to get up for investigators in an interview or an interrogation, which are two different things. Is you know what? Let's take a 10-minute break. I'm gonna get up and do you want to pop? You know, you want water? Do you got to use the bathroom? Let's just take a short break because distance is your friend. That gives that person time to reflect on how things are going and where they're at, and do they need to maybe make a change in their attitude or their answers or whatever. Or for us, you know what? I think maybe I really do need an attorney, and they, they're going to clam up. Um, what would be your advice to, because you're talking about uh, having a lot of experience under your belt and whatnot to get to that level that the person sitting across from you is not going to beat you, uh, even though they're thinking I'm gonna beat the machine. In reality, they don't realize it's not about the machine. It's about the polygraph examiner. That's where the strength of everything lies. So, what is your advice to some young person, or they already are a polygraph examiner, but they don't have the decades of experience? What's some advice that you can give them to say this will make you better at your what you're passionate about, which is getting to the truth?
I would say go slow, be empathetic. Everyone has a story to tell, and the truth, and I would say this, the truth, everyone wants the truth. And sometimes the truth is not always good, meaning sometimes when you do tell the truth, it sometimes hurts someone and sometimes it can actually hurt you. But everyone does want the truth.
Hmm.
And you need to explain yourself as a young examiner that, hey, I am there. I've heard it. I'm going to hear it. And I don't judge you. And I think what happens is just like when you're a young cop or you're a young detective, you want it now, and I got to get it, and oh my God, if I fail to get I'm a failure,
Yeah.
that's not true. That person's come to you for a reason. And so you need to be there for them, whether they're going to be deceptive or they're truthful. You need to be listening to them, empathetic, and I promise you, it's going to be a great outcome. And what I mean by this is I've had people that have failed my exam more than you know, and yet they walk out, thank me, shake my hand, and they're not ones that complain, bitch, or moan because I treated them with the utmost respect. They know they've deceived the me or their significant other or their boss or whoever, whatever they came for, and they know they failed. But the fact is because they were treated with the utmost respect, they walked out with their head still held up high because I didn't judge them.
Yeah. No, and I think that that is part of the human nature of people, that people want to tell the truth. The fear factor is, and Chris Voss talks about this in Never Split the Difference. Robin Dreek has talked about it in some of his books as a counterintelligence guy with the FBI. Is the four things that we all really value and want in our lives are uh, safety, security, prosperity, and control.
Mm-hmm.
And and when any of those get threatened, which by telling the truth is gonna might threaten, your prosperity and control because you're gonna now be in prison. That's the incentive, and that conflicts with um, your desire to get it off your chest and actually tell the truth. So I think that's something that's so important, and people don't understand that the polygraph examiners that are like you, that have that experience and compassion and empathy, that's your focus. I'm not here. It's not like, okay, we got to get this done in an hour because I got another, client waiting, kind of deal. Or, oh, I've already put in 9 hours of my 10-hour day shift, and so we got to wrap this up because I want to go home. Um, what is some, I don't know how to put this. Um, are there courses? Are there speakers? Are there mentors? Books or things out there that somebody can go? I can go to that. I can learn through other resources other than just uh, by trial and error. Uh,
As a polygraph examiner, or are
yeah.
you talking about as a
No.
person that wants to take a test?
No. As a polygraph examiner, what could what could some 20-year-old who's in college right now, or a 19-year-old, and they go, man, I want to be a polygraph examiner, and uh, but I don't know how, um, and what it's really like uh, to be like you. I want to be David Goldberg, but I don't want to take 30 years to get there. What can they do to start educating themselves, start being molded into that type of polygraph examiner that they want to be once they start getting the experience? I don't know if I'm
Oh, they
making
got
sense.
yeah, you are. You have to take certain, I would say, certain kind of courses in school, in college, to know individuals. I would say psychology, sociology, to really understand human behavior. Okay, and take even human behavior courses. That's number one, and physiology. Second, I would say you need to learn how to do excellent report writing, because you're going to do a lot of report writing. And I think you need to really understand human behavior, because you're going to deal with every type of individuals that come from every walk of life. Okay. From rich, poor, to homeless, to you name it. Okay. And even though we are all, human, we all come from the same maybe backgrounds, raised by maybe one parent, two parents, or whatever. The fact is we all have a story to tell, and we can't clump everyone into one group. That's not fair. And I think a lot of times that happens. Okay. Everyone is an individual, and we need to listen to their story as an individual and help them. And those individuals that want to be a polygraph examiner, well, I don't know. There's not that many books out there, and mentorship that happens when you become a polygraph examiner. Tons of books in reference that when you become one, there's those at conferences. There's tons of conferences you would go to. You definitely learn a lot with senior examiners. They can reach out to me, if they're really interested, and I will absolutely give them any type of information that they really want. And I'll talk to them, talk their ear off, and give them plenty of information and advice.
So how do they reach you? What?
Yeah, they can reach me at my website, www.executiveprotectiongrp.com, or they can email me at david@executiveprotectiongrp.com. And on there is my phone number, my social media platforms, and just reach out to me. And I promise you, you're going to call me, you're going to talk to me, you're going to email me. I have no one else that responds to anyone, and I will talk to you directly. I will help you, and no matter where you are, around the country, around the world, it doesn't matter. I'll be the one that helps you and talks to you.
That that's great. I'll tell you. I, and this is going to sound like a weird question because I try to do. I always have so many things going through my mind. It if there's one thing that you're just like, man, Pat, please ask me this. There's this really important point I want to make, but I didn't ask the right question or it didn't fall into the conversation we were having. So this is kind of like open mic. Is there something you want to share and you're just dying to get it out there, and uh, I didn't give you the opportunity to make that happen? Now it's open mic. What do you want to say?
I would say that if you're going through any type of issue, no matter what in your life, whether it's from past, whether it's current, or whether it's, a few weeks to years, whether you were a minor and now you're an adult, you want to resolve it, I would say don't hesitate to take a polygraph test if you know that you are an absolute honest and open individual. Don't fear a polygraph. The one thing that you need to do is you need to do your due diligence and do excellent research in finding the correct and proper examiner that has experience, who's empathetic, who will take your time, just like you said, not going to rush the exam. An average exam, the minimum exam time should be an hour and a half. Mine are 3 hours. And that's because I don't rush anyone. I take my time, and it has to be that. So if you get someone that gives you a 30-minute test, that's like going into a deli and you take your number 4, number 5, and ask you what you want in the counter, and that does you no justice. So take your time, do your research, and when you find that right examiner, you'll know, and you're going to get so much closure. You're going to be empowered, and when you walk out, everything off your shoulder, off the weight is going to be just gone, and then you're going to feel like a new person because you're going to get closure. You're going to give closure to someone else, and you did it. And do it. And I say this: do it for yourself. If you're going to do it for someone else, that's great. But ultimately, if you're going to take the test, do it for yourself. And the one last thing I would say in reference to open mic is this: if you've ever failed a polygraph test, but you've been told, meaning you failed, but you told the truth,
Hmm.
do not under any circumstances let that failed exam carry you for the rest of your life and say, well, I failed, I'm a loser, or oh my God. Because here's what I'm going to say: there are other dream jobs out there. There are other issues that you can resolve with another polygraph exam somewhere else with another examiner, okay, that will prove that you were innocent. And if you were telling the truth and you failed that exam, you failed maybe not because of you failed maybe because of the examiner. And pick up your head and go somewhere else, because I can't tell you enough how many times I've heard this over and over again. I should have passed. I don't know why I didn't pass, or I got an inconclusive. What do? I tell people, hey, don't put your eggs in one basket. Apply somewhere else. Go somewhere else. And I promise you're going to get your dream job, because it's not always you if you're telling the truth and you failed or got an inconclusive. It's the examiner.
Yeah, uh, that's great. And another squirrel. It's people go, yeah, they just hesitate, and they can't wrap their head around that bigger picture. So I always like to try and go let's relate it to something else that'll make this make more sense. How many cases across the country have we seen over the last 10 or 15 years where people were wrongly convicted because of the ineptitude or the intentional misconduct of a medical examiner in an autopsy? And it's the second autopsy, or that they go back, somebody else more professional, more experienced, reviews all the data, and and another doctor goes, well, that's not the cause of death. That ruling, and they were doing it out of expediency, or ineptitude, and carelessness, or bad. They just didn't care. And the same thing can be true with polygraph examiners, or any professional, uh, type lawyers, doctors, teachers. If you're paying me for results, I'm going to try and give you the results you want. I mean, that mindset kind of deal. So, great advice. Man, David, this is fun. I really enjoy having people come on and bring, like you call it, clarity, uh, dispel myths, and that are genuinely interested in helping other people get achieve the life that they want. So thank you so much for being here today. Uh, in the notes when we post this out for our listeners, I'm going to have his contact information in there. So reach out to him. Uh, and for our listeners, man, I want to tell you, I'm just so proud of the community that we are building internationally. We're now in 75 countries, downloaded in 75 countries, coming up on 10,000 downloads. It's because of your commitment to become the warrior, servant, and leader that you want to be, that we're growing as a community. And I really want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and want to thank you for that. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, all those places. And if you want to be more involved in the Warrior Servant Leader community, connect with me on LinkedIn, and it's on there that we have our Warrior Servant Leader newsletter, which is free. There's no cost, and we have right now we're over 900 subscribers of like-minded people who are trying to make a difference in their part of the world. So join us. And this is kind of new. This is the first episode I've said this on. If you have a message the world needs to hear and you want to share it, again, let's connect on LinkedIn and we can set up a time to have a phone call to talk about your story and how we can help you share it. So until next time, as I end every episode, always, always, always strive to do the right thing at the right time, the right way, and for the right reasons, because that's what warriors, servants, and leaders do every time, every day. Love you all. See you next week.